Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Capeness Amateur Drum Antics Society. Tonight I'm going to do a then and now tasting where I've got an expression from a distillery from the past and an expression of the equivalent expression from the present. And tonight I'm going to do Old Pulteney 12-year-old. I've got a sample of Old Pulteney 12-year-old from the sample guys, distilled in the 1990s, and I have a miniature of the current Old Pulteney 12-year-old from the present day. I have reviewed this in an Old Pulteney review I did a while back, the present 12-year-old, but this is really for comparison purposes. I'm actually going to pour 2 glasses of each. I'll explain why in just a moment. That's the 1990s one poured. Now let's pour the present day one. Reasonable measure of each. And the reason I'm pouring 4 glasses is because I'm going to try a little experiment, because I've just discovered on John Beatty's podcast Cask to Glass, he had a Romanian lady on who was asked how she took her whiskey, and she said either neat or with Birkentree Highland Birchwater. And so I got some to see what it was. And you get a box with a little card in it explaining the different features of the water. And 3 bottles of 100ml Birkentree Highland Birchwater. So, Birkentree Highland Birchwater, what is it? Well, on their website they say, our journey began with the taste of a liquid that had all but been consigned to the history books in Scotland due to the Highland clearances, where all collective knowledge had been lost due to the forced migration of an entire generation of rural Scots. Further research showed that due to our unique history, we were the only country in the Northern Hemisphere not actively tapping birch trees for this beautiful living liquid. This was all the more extraordinary as Scotland is the only country with a unique population of these ancient trees, which confound the species' usual lifespan. These rare examples produce a sap that is next level in its depth and complexity, and very much forms the unique nature of our product. Initially, our tastings revolved around the beautiful effects achieved when paired with single malts. However, we quickly realised the same principle of enhancing any spirit led to a greater understanding and appreciation of its inner character and nuances. We have embarked on a Scottish renaissance of this natural phenomenon and dedicated it to the increased enjoyment of the world's luxury whiskies and spirits. So they're harnessing nature. And they say that the older the birch tree, the greater the quality and complexity of the sap produced. And at Birkentree, they have a unique access to some of the rarest ancient birch woodland, not only in Highland Scotland, but in the world. And these ancient specimens grow well over 300 years old, confounding the usual lifespan of 120 years. And for a brief period in early March, they hand tap these extraordinary trees using the same sustainable methods handed down by our ancestors. and the resulting silver sap is rich in minerals, vitamins, enzymes, and amino acids. And they say the visible sediments, and there are visible sediments in this, are the natural micronutrients which are present in the sap, which come together when the liquid settles. So I don't know if you can see this here, but there's definitely some sediment there. This flocculation or bunching is their Highland Silver Sap signature hallmark, which creates a mouthfeel that is so characteristic of their product, enhancing the spirit experience. And they do say before serving, a vigorous shake of the bottle returns the liquid to its silver-like clarity. Yeah, it is silver clarity, I would say. And Highland Silver Sap is naturally active, and this is precisely the way they want to keep it. Once opened, this living liquid must be kept refrigerated and consumed within 4 days. And so it's important to shake the product before you serve. I'm going to try this neat in a moment. So this sediment are the natural enzymes and amino acids which are present in the sap, which come together when the liquid settles. So the shaking returns liquid to the silver-like clarity. And it's naturally active, and it's precisely the way they want to keep it, similar to a natural fruit juice. It's an active and entirely natural liquid with no additives or preservatives. It's filtered and bottled in its natural state, allowing them to retain the magical characteristics of the living liquid. The issue is that you have to use it quickly because it doesn't contain any preservative. So, but you can freeze it. So as long as you freeze it within a couple of days of opening it, you'll get some nice ice cubes. So you would think, coming from a tree, it would have a sticky sap-like consistency. And it's certainly, I would say, a little more viscous than water. But it's got a freshness, it's a water-like consistency. And let's try it on the mouth. It's definitely not tap water. It has maybe a slight vanilla nature to it. Quite delicate and a delicate texture. I wonder. I'm not sure. But anyway, we've got 2 whiskies and we'll put some of this. They recommend 50-50 whiskey to water this birch water, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to add a splash to mine because both the whiskies down at 40%. I'll try it in another review. I'll try higher strength whiskies and add a bit more of the birch water. But so these Old Pulteneys, for a long time, Pulteney could be called the most northern distillery on the Scottish mainland. When Wolfburn Distillery in Thursday opened in 2013, they took over that title, and now Eight Doors Distillery at John Groats has usurped them. The coastal style of Old Pulteney whisky, as the whiskies from Pulteney are called, is quite unique, and it used to be very well judged by whisky experts. They revamped their core range of Old Pulteney branded whisky several years ago. They dropped the tasty 17 and 21-year-old age statements, now a 15, 18, 25-year-old. But they continued with the 12-year-old. And there are a few differences between the whisky and the older bottling, the current versions. First of all, this is the older one, and this is the newer one. So, older here, newer here, and I think you can just detect that the older one is a bit darker. Yeah, it's actually quite a bit darker. It's hard to say whether that's an indication of the cask types, the average age, or some amount of added caramel curling. So, how do these two, separated by roughly 30 years, stack up against each other? Was whisky actually better in the past, or is that a myth? So, first up, we have the Old Pulteney 12-year-old 40% from the 1990s, fully matured in first spill ex-bourbon casks from buffalo trays. And it's a bit musty, sweet polished oak, lots of old furniture and woodiness. But there's some sweet sense of heather, soft tropical fruits like guava, chalky malt, a dark caramel, and there's a mixture of brine. It is the maritime malt after all. White chocolate, cream, the white and green fruit gums, and a touch of clean fluid in there. So the 12-year-old current release was first released in the mid 2018, entirely aged in bourbon casks, and it should have a heavy influence of bourbon sweetness, which should balance the characteristic coastal salinity of Old Pulteney. So, and you definitely get a difference in the nose. This is the old one. This is the new. I think the old one has a bit more depth. The new one, honeycomb, vanilla fudge, a soft sawdust oakiness, and oat cakes. It's quite fresh, but the old one definitely has more depth of aroma. New one, fruity notes, pear, lemon, peach and grapefruit, with a light vanilla and hints of sawdust. Floral notes and cookie dough, and there's a light maritime edge. Definitely more depth of aroma with this one, and look at the tiers, they're very similar. Similar tiers, 40%. Both will be chill filtered and both will probably have colour added. New one's lemony fresh with a hint of vanilla, but there's also some chalk and seashells. Let's try the mouth. And it's got this is the old one, it's a medium thin mouthfeel, but a decent amount of flavour. It's a perfumed oak, sweet and oily, lightly floral and heathery, generally quite sweet. And there's some baking notes of brown sugar and cinnamon, some vanilla and wildflower honey syrup, and there's a little hint of orange and raisin hiding in the background. Very mature, and an emphasis on those oak flavours. It's spicy, but not in an aggressive way. Plenty of sweetness from white fruits, but also white chocolate. Let's try the mouth of the current release 12-year-old. chocolate, peanuts, mint, citrus. There are some maritime elements and white pepper. It's creamy and sweet, slightly more than expected. Still fruity, peaches and citrus with honey. And it's got a nice waxy, lemony coastal side. Then toffee and a bit peppery wood as well. There's some chalk, a nice salinity and touches of bitter lemon zest and green grapes. And a bit of white pepper as well. I'm going to go back to the old one. I think the old one's got a slightly heavier mouthfeel, more depth. Yeah, I think the old one's winning this. And the finish on the old one is sort of medium length, sweet, almost saccharine, and there's some perfumed oak, hints of oats and malt, syrupy butterscotch and vanilla. And there's a slightly fizzy and floral element. Back to the new one, or the present one. And you get toffee, brine and lemon. It's just a medium length and get a bit of saltiness, baking spice. You could pinch of salt actually. Okay, so with water, what I'm going to do, I've got 2 glasses of each, and I'm going to add 1 ml of water to one of each. And I'm going to add a splash of the Birkentree Birchwater to each to give a comparison. So some nice for symmetry in the old one with water, and yeah, some nice for symmetry to the new one with water as well. And again, lovely bit symmetry. Almost, yeah, it seems to be more viscous with the birch tree water. That's the old one. This is the new one. And there's not so much the symmetry with the birch tree water. So let's try the nose. This is the new one. And it's light and fruity, slightly sweet, honey, apple, very soft, slightly herbal, and there's some malt in the background, some vanilla and slightly citrus fruits. Let's try the nose with the birch tree. And I think it holds more of the aromas diluted with the birch tree water. Let's try the new one. And it's sweet and fresh. This is one with just water, aromatic apples, honey, and a delicate citrus, a bit grassy and floral. oranges and peaches and vanilla, touch of cinnamon and dried herbs, wood and nuts, and notes of stale fruit in the background. And again, I think it's held more of the aromas undiluted. They had the undiluted aromas with the birch water added. 40% drams, so that's maybe not a bad thing. So try the mouth with just water. And it's a very soft start, sweet, light tea, fruity, vanilla, honey, some herbs, malt, and nuts come through. And then you get a hint of citrus fruits, green apple, becoming slightly bitter towards the end. So the moment of truth with the Birkentree Birchwater. Oh. With the Birkentree, it does impart a silky smoothness, and I think it resonates very well with the Birkentree Birchwater, much better than it does with the spring water. And because it's natural with nothing added, it's low in sugar and a myriad of naturally occurring enzymes and micronutrients. It's got a lovely yet light, viscous mouthfeel. That's very impressive, I have to say. I was a little bit cynical about this, but I'm kind of getting one round here. And the finish is a reasonable length and warming, and it fades gently on sweet spice. So let's see with the present day whiskey. So that's the one with just spring water. It's sweet and fresh, a bit of water, honey, and apples, and slight citrus and vanilla with a lot of caramel and toffee, notes of wood and nuts, bit of dried herbs, pinch of cinnamon and salt, and notes of stale fruit in the background. Let's try it with the Birkentree. And again, I think it retains more of its pre-dilution with the Birkentree, and it's got a lovely silky mouthfeel as well. And the finish is a sort of medium length, light, delicate citrus with apples, slightly nutty, a small pinch of cinnamon and salt, dried herbs, and notes of stale fruit at the very end. I'm going to try the original 90s version. And it is a great whiskey that develops more and more facets and turns into a real highlight. The nose and the palate are very soft, but also very beautiful. There's no corners or edges. It's a beautiful old style whiskey, I think. And let's see the new one. It's a good, solid, basic malt. It's easy to drink, easy to mix, and easy on the wallet. I do want a little more complexity in my everyday whiskey, and I have to say it's rougher than the older version and has less balance. That's the new one, and so I think it's safe to say the version bottled roughly 30 years ago is much better. Now, of course, this is only one example, so we can't make any sweeping generalizations about new whiskey and old whiskey as a whole, but in this case, the difference is clear. The older bottlings of Old Pulteney 12-year-old are absolutely a class above the newer versions. There's so much maturity and flavour development in the older bottling. And because of the better flavours in the older version, it's an excellent value whiskey compared to a mediocre value in the current bottle. If you're able to find one of these old bottles for a reasonable price, I would say it's worth a shot. I don't surf the auctions too often, but I'll definitely be on the lookout for more of these older Old Pulteney bottlings. As for the Birkentree Birchwater, I think it does add something mystical to the tasting. Whether that's a psychomatic thing, romantic thing, nostalgic thing, or actually a visceral thing, I'm not entirely sure. We'll try it again with some higher strength whiskey soon. Thank you for listening.